No brainer for you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of From the Ground Up, real-time issues and real-time solutions for MWBEs and small businesses, provided by Queen Strategy Partners and Nicole Valentine Esquire, Danielle Douglas, and myself, Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant. We appreciate you tuning in the first and third Tuesday of each month, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that we can have conversations that are helping your business thrive and survive post everything that we have been experiencing out here in the world. So thank you for joining. It's March. Like, I can't believe March is here, but we're here and we have a special guest today. But before we get into the show, there's so much to talk about. You know, this is my favorite part of our intro every single week. My beautiful dynamic co-host, Danielle Douglas. Take it away.
Well, good morning, everyone. And as I always say, thank you, Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant, for that introduction. So we are so excited about this show today. We have a special guest. I am going to leave the introduction to my co-host, Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant, but I want to just set up the stage for our great guest today. The topic is how to structure your JV. And so we brought to you this morning a person who is like, could give you the lowdown. He knows this topic in and out, and he's going to share with you all the different types of JV structures that you can do. You know, Stacey and I have been speaking to you since the beginning of the year about the power of collaboration. And we have been trying to lay the foundation of how you can have a successful joint venture collaboration to build your capacity and expand your business. So today we wanted to bring a subject matter expert on this topic so you can see the flexibility that you can have when thinking about structuring a JV with a potential partner. So with that said, without further ado, I am going to give the mic back to my co-host, Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant, to introduce our special guest.
Thank you so much, the beautiful and talented Danielle Douglas. Appreciate you and excited about today. And that's real Black Girl Magic. We just love on each other and celebrate the great things that we're able to do. And today we're excited because as we've been talking, as Danielle said, about JVs and collaborations and the things that we have done, by example, with Queen Strategy Partners. We have an attorney who's practiced close to 20 years. He's an entrepreneur. He's a pilot. He's a community advocate. He has like a million jobs, but he's the owner and the operator of Vanell Law Firm PC, and he focuses on intellectual property law, business law, wills and estate planning. He does so much when it comes to helping the wealth gap close in our community and understands what it means to actually come together, collaborate, and create legal entities that can really advance your capacity as a business. And he is definitely I'll just be transparent, my attorney too, because he knows how to protect my intellectual property, honey. And we've been quite busy in these streets because people have been coming after my brilliance. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce the one and only Clive Vanell Esquire.
First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. My goodness, we're here at this great program that you guys have been doing. I went and looked at what you guys have been doing, and consistency is a big deal. And I believe this is episode 20 something. That is a powerful thing to continue to bring great content to the, to folks. So, kudos to you guys. And then Queen Strategy Partners, you guys are an example of joint ventureship of this. And, so you're not just, you're not just talking about the medicine, you've taken the medicine. All right. So, and it's a powerful thing to see how the entire thing is greater than the sum of its parts. Right. So, you guys are independently powerful. Independently, your businesses were successful and are successful. But together, sky's the limit. And together, look at this, what you guys are doing, and look what you guys, look at this, from the ground up series that's providing so much value to entrepreneurs all across the world using these platforms.
And Clyde, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to pass the mic back to my co-host, Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant, to ask you the first question. But before we do that, as we tell our story, Queen Strategy Partners, we always speak about that person who knew us as individuals, but he was kind enough to have the brilliance to bring us together in collaboration. So we always, we never mention that person's name, but I think it's quite appropriate that we share that today, how that person was key and so instrumental in making Queen Strategy Partners happen and birth that. And we have to give him a special thank you and gratitude and let him know how much we love him for him doing that, because I wouldn't have my sister friend here if it was not for him.
Amen to that. And this is the first time it's a debut. Drum roll, please. The brilliant vibe was that just followed his heart in saying, let me bring these women together. He didn't know what would come of it, but sometimes when we get an umption, when we get something inside of our spirit, y'all know where I can go with that, but when we feel that and we act on it, some people feel it and they don't do anything. So as Danielle said, we are grateful that he did. Who knew what would come out of it? And now I have sisters for life. So definitely very grateful. Thank you, Danielle, for unveiling the mystery man behind Queen Strategy Partners.
I can't explain. So, it was a point where, as a business attorney, you come across, I come across so many businesses, so many business people, so many entrepreneurs. That's the business that I'm in. When I saw how dynamic that your business is, Danielle, and Stacey's is, and Nicole, at that time, I said to myself, imagine, and so one other person, but imagine they got to, what kind of magic would they make? One of the things I want to talk about too is I don't want to just be here as the lawyer now. I think something's in my spirit to say, how does joint venture, what does that mean? Why should people do it? And we'll get into that. But to see how the potential of what you guys can do together, I thought would be magic, and it already shows, and from that birth, this joint ventureship, this partnership, this business that you guys are doing together, and I'm excited that you guys also had enough belief and faith in me to walk out on faith and come to. I think I told each of you guys, come to a meeting to meet other people. I didn't even describe it much.
You didn't.
You guys, came out and met each other. And again, and we'll talk about this too. Not every joint venture, you're not supposed to partner with everybody. It ain't for everybody, and you got to be careful of who you partner up with, who you join with, who you connect your business with. But when it works, it's magic.
Absolutely. You gave us a Charlie's Angel command. Like, I need you to show up at 10 a.m. and this message will self-destruct. Okay, let me behave and let's get into the show today. First question. You just led and inferred about different types of JV. So let's talk about what they actually are. And, as a business attorney, you see this all the time, the different kinds from informal to one time. Let's explain each one: contract-based, separate entity, and hybrid. So let's get into the meat of it, because people have been watching our show. They've been looking at our example. We've had different guest experts speak on certain things, but I really want them to understand the mechanics of it and what types of JV exist.
All right, before I get to the mechanics, again, before I get into the trees, into the roots, people gotta understand the forest. Why should people get together? Should we talk about that, or would you want me to get into the why should companies get together? Why should there be joint ventures? Why even do it? First of all, if anybody ever hear of M&As, mergers and acquisitions, big companies get together. In order for some of the biggest companies say, hey, for us to go after this contract, I need your expertise. So together we can do this. And these are some of the biggest companies in the world. Me working, another job that I have is I work for the government. And I see that there are many contracts and many things that the biggest institutions in the world do to be able to provide services. Let's talk about the coronavirus pandemic. When the United States of America needed PPE, needed ventilators, needed, companies got together and said, you know what, I used to do this, now I'm going to do this. I'll partner up with this company to be able to provide X. So if the biggest companies in the world do it, who do you think you are? That's one. Two, a big thing in the parlance, in business, in tech, or whatever, is the 5-letter word, scale. Scale. What does it mean for scaling? Growth. A short circuit to scaling and growth is partnering up with another company, right? That can help with your capacity. That's the importance. That's what we're talking about. So if you want to go from whatever business you're in, if you want to go from, level X to 10X in a short period of time, joint ventureships, partnering with the right company, with the right partner, with the right other, entrepreneur can help you 5X, 2X, 10X in a short period of time. That is why this conversation is so important. All right, Stacey, I think I have to lay out the groundwork for that.
Absolutely. So let's go straight into it. That's important to see the perspective and to hear your perspective as we've been talking about examples of JV. So now let's get into the roots. Let's get into the structure. What is it informal from a one-time to a contract base?
So again, it depends on your type of company that you have, right? It depends on the type of company you have. So you could have, if you're doing services, if you're a restaurant, if you're doing whatever like that, right? So first thing, before we talk about how to do it, you have to identify who's a good match, who's a good partner to be able to. Not everyone's a good match, not everyone's a good partner, right? And some people try to do, and then you could also think about, should they be part of the business, right? Should I change my business structure and add them on if it's an LLC, add them on as an official member? If it's a corporation, add them on as a shareholder, add them on as an owner, or should I do something where I add them on this project and see how it starts off, project by project or what have you? So that's a decision that you have to make early. But that decision on who you partner with is a very important decision to make. And I think, generally speaking, you should not marry before you date. Meaning, right? You should possibly have a joint ventureship or a partner where they are working on a project with you first. You give that a period of time to see what they actually bring to the table, and then you could revisit that in the future. So now let's talk about the how. So depending on the business that you have and depending on the projects that you have, you could, some businesses and some projects could be maybe a relatively informal joint ventureship. So I have a lemonade stand, you have cups. Okay, you're in the cup business, I have a lemonade stand. So, and I don't have cups. So, you bring your cups, I sell my lemonade, we sell them for $1. I give you, 10 cents, whatever it is, right? So that is something that, again, you don't need a contract for that. You, generally speaking, you see how that works. You see how that works, and then we could, and then that could be formalized later or what have you. That is on the very basic sense. If you want to open up, if that same lemonade stand person and the cup person want to make it formal and open up a bottling company, after doing that, then that's something that should be, then you got to consider how to put the contract together, right? So that may be, now keep in mind, sometimes if you have a business and the other person doesn't, sometimes you consider them being a part of your business after a period of time, or vice versa. If they have a business and you don't, or if you both have businesses, you got to consider getting into one another or the other one, or creating a whole new entity, right? So sometimes both parties can keep their businesses and create a whole new entity for the joint ventureship. What's important to explain, and I think what people should understand, is why to get into these different things, not what's in a contract, what's not in a contract. Okay, this is it. Da, 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 da. What's important is to understand why to do it, not what's important is to understand that the toilet is leaking, not which wrench to fix the toilet. You got to know that the damn, I need to fix the damn toilet. So when do you need? So how do you identify? I'm giving you questions. Sorry, I should stick with your questions.
You on a roll. You might as well go with it.
So here's a question. How do I identify when I should partner up with somebody? How do I identify that? How do I identify when should I do it? Right? Forget about the how. Figure out the how. When should I do it? So I identified dynamic entrepreneurs in a certain space, you guys, at a certain time where I saw that there were major contracts in the government that separately you guys could not get, but together it would be possible. So when you see an opportunity, right? When you see an opportunity that you cannot get on your own, then you should seek that partnership. So in the government, when people saw it, when these big companies saw all this stuff that was going on, these companies with intention sought partners that had a certain capacity. With intention. They didn't say, you know what, maybe I knew somebody. No. They went out and sought it. There is big business that does this. Investment bankers go and buy companies and add and do mergers and acquisitions for pieces that are missing. Smaller companies don't do that, generally speaking. So
wait, pause. Can we pause right there? Why do smaller companies not do that? I just needed to insert that.
Scale, growth. So one of the things that our entrepreneurs, the difference between big business and small business is big and small. big business got big, right? They grew. Now, one of the things that's important for our entrepreneurs to be mindful of and to learn is we can be successful, but sometimes you plateau. Right? Sometimes, at a certain point, you're going to plateau. How do you pass that plateau? How do you grow? Again, every business, I'm sorry, not every business, but
most businesses.
Yeah, most businesses are not, don't survive, but most businesses get to a point that are, that have been sustainable, right? Get to a point to say, okay, how do I grow? If the business doesn't grow, it's going to die. If the business doesn't have business, and if it doesn't get new business or what have you, it's going to atrophy. He's going to keep the same clients, and it's going to eventually going to lose clients, and it's eventually going to get less and less revenue. But an entrepreneur, a business person, has to constantly think about, how do I grow? how do I build? How do I enter into new markets? And bigger businesses do that. Smaller businesses, generally speaking, do not. And Danielle, it is uncomfortable. It's not easy, right? So everything I'm talking about ain't easy. And if you're
And
looking for,
Clyde, we're here as a testament because we are living the journey. We
Yes.
know it. Can I get an amen? We are your testimony this morning.
it ain't easy. So think about this. Who do you think you are to think that you're going to do something and not have trials and tribulations and not have the road difficult? There are major corporations that are trying to figure out the cultural wars after a merger.
Mhm.
That's natural. That happens. That's okay. But even with the cultural differences, it was worth the merger because they want to grow. So
But
how do we?
can I jump in? I'm sorry, we're gonna be jumping in. So I hear you with the big businesses, but how that plays out in the smaller businesses is personalities, right? So it may not be culture, but it may be personality, and you have to, you have to find that, like you said, that sweet spot, and you have to have the emotional maturity to navigate the personalities and those individuals nuances. I don't know if nuance is the right word, but so I agree with you totally, but it plays out in personalities for the small businesses.
And Danielle, so the culture of a company is their personality. So you're exactly
True.
right. It is their personality. It's the same thing. It is their personality. And 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 one of the things that is important for us to, and I think that this conversation is great, is this is a conversation for small businesses and not so small businesses about growth,
So let's
about building.
look, you got to stir it up, Clyde, because you're going on another trajectory and you popping all this stuff in our brain. So let's stay right there because our audience are MWBEs and small businesses, right? And they might not think about, they've been hearing us talk about joint venturing and what that looks like in the word scale and what that means. But what limits them from the opportunities of seeing it as a growth tool? Some people don't see it as a growth tool because they think their business is just all that in a bag of chips and nobody can really partner with them because they're the only one that offers what they offer.
Well, part of the issue I always find, again, that's why, I think the conversation about the details of what's in the agreement is not as helpful as understanding the mindset. Part of what stops the small business owner from growth is that they are an employee in their own business, right?
Wait, say that again. They are what?
They are an employee in their own business. So you own the business, you own the job, but you work as an employee. You work in the business, but not on the business.
And Clyde, can I jump in here as well? Because, when I teach the capacity building program, we talk about that, the very thing that you're saying. And some people, they do just want to be employees of their business. They just want to make a decent living and have flexibility. And there's other people that want, and there's no right or wrong to that. And there's other people that want to build a business for generational wealth, or other people that want to build a business to a certain level so they can sell the business, right? And cash out. So you have to understand what your goals are and your vision is for you as an individual, as well as, and therefore that will drive the type of business you have and how you want to scale your business.
That's exactly it, Danielle. So this conversation. So again. I like to talk to the audience. This conversation ain't for everybody. Ain't for everyone. Right. So this is for the people that want to grow. All right. So if you don't want to grow, then this ain't your conversation. Right. So and it's okay to do that. It's okay to say that. It's fine. It's fine to have a sole proprietorship business that if you get hurt, the money stops. If you don't, blah blah blah, the money, that you can't pass along. That's fine. But there are people that build a business, that want to build a institution, that want to build a brand, that want to build something that's bigger than and beyond them, that they want to pass on to the next generation, that they want to also be able to potentially transfer, scale, sell, license. And when you do something like that, that's not, it takes a certain kind. You have to operate in a certain space, and that's why we talk about this growth and growing. But to be able to identify who should I partner up with, who should I scale, how should I do scale? You have to have a certain level, a certain mindset, and a certain level of space, mental space, as a business owner to be able to see those opportunities. But if you guys remember, the commercial for Dunkin' Donuts, time to make the donuts. If you're the person making the donuts, you're not going to get the second Dunkin' Donuts store or the third Dunkin' Donuts store or the fourth Dunkin' Donuts store. You're too busy making the donuts. And what I'm saying is, in order to identify opportunities for growth and for partnership and opportunities to say, oh, okay, we could get these contracts here, we can grow here, we can blah, 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 then you have to be able to be the CEO, right? You have to be the CEO of your business. You have to be, right, the CEO is the person that has the vision of growth, of different opportunities, of where we're going to go. The COO, the chief operating officer, is the one making the donuts or figuring out how the donuts are to be made and where we could get the best machine for the donuts or what have you. You need that also. But in order to for this conversation, people won't get to the opportunity to figure out, how to formulate a joint venture if they don't understand why they need one, if they want to grow, or if they don't even know how to identify growth.
And Clyde, can I stop you here also? Sometimes that takes transition, right? So somebody may have that vision and they do want to grow, but they're not quite there yet. And this is interesting that we're having this conversation because just Saturday night, I was looking at the Great Men, the Food Who Built America. They have like a series, and they highlighted Mr. Doolin, who created Fritos and Cheetos, and Herman Lay, who did Lay's potato chips. If you look at a bag of chips now, it says Frito Lay's. They end up doing a joint venture, and that came out of Herman, but they started from the ground up. Herman Lay was the employee of another business, as you said. The owner suddenly died, and he went to the wife and asked the wife, can he buy the business? And so he started growing the business. And on the other end was Mr. Doolin, who, like, in the Great Depression, they were like losing money. They had to figure something out. His mother gave up her wedding ring, and said, pawn this ring, because he had this great idea. He saw this, and I mean this, people are so politically correct these days. I'll say an immigrant person who was frying some type of potato chip or something, and he wanted to go back home to Mexico. He sold them the trademark for $100, but they had to pawn his mother's ring for the $100 to get the money. And from there, they still weren't making a profit because they had to hand make it. So he took a machine, tweaked the machine so they could get greater production. And then they started making a profit. But make a long story short, I'm telling you that story to say it can start from the ground up, but you have to have what you said, the vision and the perseverance to go through that process. And when you see the opportune time is there and you need to think about how you want to grow more, that is where the sweet spot comes with potentially a JV. And at that point, I'll say one more thing and I'm gonna let you jump in. Herman Lay knocked on Mr. Doolin's door. They were blowing up at this point. They were almost pretty much competitors. And Herman Lay said, look, I know you trying to get in the Northeast. That's my territory. You got the Southwest, but you need a factory to produce your Fritos and stuff. I got the factory. You let me produce and I'll give you some money on, and then you let me come into Southwest. And from there, again, we got Frito-Lays.
Danielle. So, okay, go ahead, Stacey. I'm sorry.
I know you want to jump in. I just want to shout out Dr. Teresa Martin, Esquire, who's tuning in. She's been a favorite guest on the show, one of my dearest and closest friends. She was like, good information, Clyde Fidel Esquire. But that is a great story, Danielle. You got to put the name of the show so folks can go and watch it, because sometimes you just need a reminder that nothing happens overnight that's sustainable, in my opinion. It takes time to grow from the ground up. Great segue. Over to you, Clyde.
So first of all, I got to give a big shout out to Dr. Martin. Wow, I didn't even know she watches the show. Dr. Martin is such a powerful entrepreneur and business.
He sure is.
I got to go watch her episode because she pours into me. Oh, Dr. My goodness, big shout out to Dr. Martin. Now, Danielle, what's interesting, what you talk about, that story. Now, that's a story for the entrepreneurs to hear. Many of the big businesses that we see, the big brands, the big stuff, have origin stories like that, right? Many of them. All of the big businesses that we see, all of the bigger stuff, have stories of collaborations, of mergers. I want this conversation to shift a little bit and to say to everyone, what is your growth strategy? How can you 10x in 1 year? Who are you going to acquire? Right? What company are you going to buy, or who can you merge with to put your business on a different level? Instead of selling to one neighborhood, how do you sell to the whole city? Instead of cutting 10 hairs, how do you cut 25 in a day? Right? How can you push yourself and just change your mindset to shift to say, how can I grow exponentially? And growth is difficult. I'll figure out, let the lawyers figure out what kind of contract. You don't need to worry about those things. You need to be the business person. How do you scale and grow? How do you build 10x? Right? And 10x growth, right? And I'm not talking about double or blah, blah, blah. 10x growth takes a different kind of mindset. It takes 10x mindset. So you by yourself making the donuts, you're gonna do okay. You're gonna survive. But this conversation is for the people that want to grow, right? For the businesses that want to build generational wealth. And again, Stacey, and again, Danielle, it's hard. It's difficult. Also, this conversation is not about, and so you have to understand that, right? Growth is difficult. Partnering with someone else, partnering with another company is difficult. Danielle's example is this, both companies are successful on their own. But together, right? One has to give up some part of the culture. The other one has to give up part of the culture. One has to, there's some give and take, but that sum together is greater than them individually. So what about your business? Are you strong? If you're a lawyer and you're doing a certain kind of practice, are you strong in one practice and weak in another practice? And somewhat together, you guys can go after bigger clients. If you are a consultant, if you're a business consultant, right? Can you, if you together with someone else, can you go after bigger clients? Can you go after bigger contracts? If you are doing food, can you go after, whatever it is, there's no company that's out there. There's no big business that's out there that's not constantly buying, merging, right? Acquiring or getting acquired. That's okay. And are you doing that with your business? And in order to do that with your business, are you the CEO? And CEO doesn't mean the COO, right? See, those are two different things. Is that clear? Is that clear, Stacy? Is that clear that the CEO and COO are two different things?
I absolutely, because the more you talk about it, it's the clearer it gets for the business owners working on your business versus in your business. And if you're not sure, you're probably working in your business. Right. So that's typically what happens, that you're still bootstrapping, and there's no judgment. I bootstrapped when I started. I made a whole ton of mistakes. The good news is you can fail fast and fail forward. Learn what you need to learn, fix what you need to fix so that you can put yourself in a position to understand working on the business and stay in your lane. I love what you were sharing about the mechanics of the agreement, what should be in, what clauses should be in, revenue splits, contributions. Leave that to the expertise of the attorney and engage with getting an attorney if it's going to be a formal contract. And you can probably just highlight that later. But I think it's important to understand what you're bringing, what you're looking for, because I know the opportunity to work with Queen Strategy Partners, to meet these bad to the bone Black women, it was stretching me in an area that I didn't play in. And it allowed me to scale and to grow and to understand what is available. And I think that is what we want our MWBEs and small businesses to understand, because a lot of MWBs say, well, I got certified and I didn't get a contract. Like you said, there was big money out here and I'm not getting any. It's relationship building. It's figuring out where the opportunities are so that your MWBE can partner with another MWBE and go after something bigger if you're unable to hold and sustain a contract on your own. The opportunities are endless. But if you're working on the hamster wheel, just going, you'll never be able to work on your business and network with individuals who will stretch and challenge you on what you can do next, to your point.
And can I build on what you just said, Stacy? And it's so important now. I think this conversation we have, because everything that seems simple is not always easy, right? And so now more than ever with COVID-19, a lot of people had to take a step back, for no reason of their own. They could have been doing extremely well. In the capacity building program I have a daycare provider, and she talked about how she was on the trajectory of significant growth, and then COVID happened, right? And so with that said, so many people have the mindset that they are in survival mode, but even in the midst of being in survival mode, and so they are reverting to working in their business. They're just trying to, survive, but this is the time, even with that you, even more than ever, you need to be thinking strategic. You need to be thinking about how you can grow, how you can create opportunities, how you can partner with others. So don't revert to your comfort zone and think survival mode. Think thrive mode. Think, wow, okay, how can that'll force me maybe to think about opportunities or areas I never even thought of, or to look at partnerships to help me grow. This is the time now more than ever. Seize it. And it goes back to what you said, Clyde. Mindset.
Now here's another piece of it that is difficult that I had to go through when you talk about growth is, whoo boy, as an entrepreneur, that means you have ambition. That means you want to not have a boss. That means you want to be able to have a level of freedom. Joint ventureship can conflict with that. And here's a big question. Can you let go?
Woo!
I'll say hallelujah to that. That's an amen moment.
That hit me in my spirit. Can you let go? That's true, because if you're always the boss, can you let go? Can you listen to other people? Can you take a second position? That's a lot of ego checking in JV. You talking the truth. Look, as the preacher said, you preaching good.
But can I say something that we, Stacy and I talked about in a prior show, knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And I think just like a marriage, like you said, or a JV, whatever that looks like, it is, if you're by yourself, it is part of that letting go, in the concept of what you said about being CEO versus COO. So you may have to let go to an employee because you're so used to doing everything. But in a JV, like a marriage, if you understand each other's strengths and weaknesses. You let that person be front and center where they shine, where they make it happen. They bring their magic, and you have to learn how to fall back where you have a weakness. So if everyone understands everyone's strengths and weaknesses, then that is where the magic happens in their synergy. But if there's a person who doesn't have the maturity to see that, or they want to shine all the time, then that's where you have that conflict.
Mhm.
So let's dig into that a little bit. And this is exactly right. So when we talk about joint venturing,
Mhm.
that means that you partner up with someone that fills your hole, right? That fills a deficit or that amplifies something so that you guys can get bigger. So that means that you have to recognize that they're bringing something to the table that you need. So if you need it for growth, right? That means that sometimes, as you said, Danielle, you have to take the back seat. That means, so as an entrepreneur, as the main person on the stage all the time in your business, you have to be ready for that, for growth. You have to be ready for that. So that is what I mean by letting go, right? Because entrepreneurs, the blessing of entrepreneurs is that they are people that can control things. The curse is that same control, right? Can they recognize that and be able to dance with that issue and figure it out, right? Can you do that? Another thing about this is another question to think about when joint ventureship is, can you partner with someone or a company or a business? Same thing with about letting go. But before you get to that, is your ego enough to partner with a company or someone that's better than you in an area? Can your ego handle that? Right? If you have to be the top one, the top dog, the top blah 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 blah, you can be the big fish in a small bowl. That's something you can't do. You can choose to do that. But what's interesting, it sounds counterintuitive, but in order to grow, there's sacrifice. In order to build in a JV that makes sense, you have to give stuff. There's stuff you have to give up. And there's stuff that you have to give up along the way. There's a cost to it. It ain't free. Money, time, recognition, whatever it is, you got to give something up.
That's so true. Can
So
I know you on a roll, Clyde, but it's in me. I just got to hit this one. My dear friend, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, in his book, What Makes the Great Great, I quote him all the time. I'm going to start sending him an invoice for it. But he says, if you're the smartest person in your group, you need a new group. Some of us get so caught up in being the bomb and all that. No, I need brilliance around me. I need people who are going to stretch me, who are going to make me want to grow and do better. That's why Queen Strategy works. We stretch each other. These are brilliant Black women. I don't have to be the bomb.com. I can be with those who are doing and creating, and it opens up because then you find out how thin the air is on the top, because we ended up knowing so many people in common, so many things in common that can put us in different arenas and help us to collectively grow our brilliance as a partnership. So I just wanted to say that, because sometimes we get caught up in drinking our own Kool-Aid, and we need to just rest that down a little bit and stretch and grow to the people who we could potentially be around to scale our business.
now keep in mind, that's a great point, Stacy. Now keep in mind, now given this world post-pandemic, given our uses of technology, given our ability to connect with the world, think about the potential joint ventures that you can have. Think about how small the world is now with these technologies. Think about the potential services that you can provide across the globe. Think about the potential joint ventures that you can have in other states. other countries. Consider those kinds of things. Think about where we are. But again, in order to be able to do that, you have to be able to have enough space to be able to do that. One important thing to think about also is no matter what business you're in, there are there are tasks, there are administrative tasks that have to be done. Sending out invoices, making this call, doing blah, 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 whatever, these kinds of, before you think about joint ventureship, did you let go of those small tasks, those little tasks? Do you believe in your business so much that you hire a virtual assistant or an assistant to be able to handle the administrative stuff? If you're stuck, and again, this is separate than joint ventures, but if you're stuck in the details of the administrative work, that's why I don't want to talk about what's in a contract. Not if you're stuck in the administrative work of your business, you're in your own way. Sometimes you got to get out of your own way. Ain't nobody else blocking you. You the one that's blocking you. So you have to get out your own way. So you should be able to be at a certain point in your business, have the administrative parts of your business to be to have someone else do that for you. Again, whether it's a virtual assistant or whatever it is, so that to help free up your ability to be the CEO and think about growth. Again, Stacy, you are not different than these other big businesses, right? They go through this process too, right? And we have to figure out where we are in our life cycle of our business to figure out where we are in order to pass that plateau that we discussed.
And we did a whole show. Francilia Wilkins Rahim was our guest talking about back office. And, that's to your point, the administrative is the back office. How do you automate certain things? How do you create systems and processes that allow you to have the flexibility to be nimble when opportunities do come and joint venture opportunities present themselves? So we've covered it all on From the Ground Up, and we're just getting started. It's season 2. Watch out, y'all. I need Byron Allen to come on and pick up the Destiny Designers TV network. Sidebar, right? Speak those things that are not as if they are. The thing that you love to do, operate in your brilliance, and then have people around you who operate in theirs that can subsidize some of the areas where you're not really interested. There are a lot of things in business I'm not interested in doing. I like doing the thing that I know God gave me to do. And then everything else, I'll pay somebody else to do it. And or partner with someone else who has that. So I think that's critically important that you share. And we could be here literally with you all day talking about this because this is your passion. You love building business. You love finding opportunities for people to see a picture. Les says this all the time, and I appreciate him as one of my mentors saying that you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. So you need people around you that can see a future vision of what could happen, just like you did when you brought us in like Charlie's Angels so that we could sit down and explore what was coming, what was ahead. We didn't know what the road would be, but we trusted that there was a reason that it happened. I don't think anything is by accident. Things happen for a reason. And today's show, if you're looking to structure your JV, we've been talking about the different elements and how to collaborate. One thing I want you to just share as we start, and Danielle has another question to add in, what would you say is very important for JV partners to safeguard against? Like you've talked about the mindset, you've told us all the things to consider, but what's like a big glaring, like neon red sign that you should be considering when thinking about doing a JV, or is there?
Well, look, there are a number of things to consider. So let's go into more of the details and structure. This part is not as, fun, but whatever. But so you have to consider, again, as I said, you got to consider who you're going to partner with, right? But what are the roles? And again, what is, if we're talking about individuals or if we're talking about companies, who does what? Right? Who does what? And when do the both have to have consensus for certain kinds of decisions? For example, right? If 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 there are two consultants and they are doing, consulting for a company or what have you, blah 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 blah, and um, someone has to travel or what have you, but that travel is not reimbursed. Suppose the travel is not reimbursed or what have and it's going to come out of the money that both you folks make. When does the partner have to call the other partner and say, "Hey, should I spend $500 on this?" At what point can they? When can they spend 200? That's fine, but at what threshold do they both need to be able to agree? Right. So those kinds of things about limiting expenses, or what kinds of agreements that the two have to make together and separate. That's a big deal. Another big deal that people have to consider is how is now the money's a big deal. All right, let's talk about the money. The money is a big deal. How do we? What do we do with the money? What do we do with the profits? Right? Do we take salaries? Do we leave it in the business? Do we, how do we pay expenses? That's a major, major, major deal. Another major deal is some people you don't want to be a partner anyway, right? Some folk, guys, some folk may have bad. Look, okay, y'all want to be real? Can we be real here or no?
Absolutely.
Now, suppose you got a 700 and somebody got a 500, and I'm talking about credit scores. What if I got good credit and my other partner is a superstar? The other person is a superstar. They're great, but they got bad credit. And there's a potential for us to get certain kinds of business credit. But if I put them on as a partner, we're not going to be able to get it because they credit is messed up. That's something you got to talk about. That's something you got to think about. So that's a consideration, so you got, when you partner up with somebody, you have to consider their background also. All right. So for certain kinds of businesses, criminal background checks is something that's important, right? If you need to get certain kind of licenses, if they, got certain kind of issues, you may not be able to get it. You got to be honest. We got to have these open conversations, and you don't want to have. It's not okay to be uncomfortable to ask somebody certain kind of questions. If this is your business, you got to have those conversations. Now, if they're great business people and they got messed up credit, okay, let's work on it. Let's make money and work on it. But know in advance, understand that. Know openly. If you got to hide them for a little while, do a separate kind of agreement so the credit blah, 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 and get their credit up, know that in advance. So that's something else to understand and know. As far as those are the big things. Now there's a lot of small things, but control of decision making and how to what to do with the money is something that's important up front. Those are big ticket things to know.
And there, like you said, there's so much more to go in, but those are two major points. And like you said, to have communication, I think one of the through lines through everything that you shared today is communication, being clear about what your expectation is, what you're coming with, what might be an issue, what might be a problem, how does that affect how we move forward, but just being in the mindset of opening up to what you can do and not having to do it by yourself. We hope that we have totally stepped on the head of limiting beliefs in today's show and how to structure your JV. And no matter where you are, if it's a dismal situation right now, so what? There's light at the end of the tunnel. This is from the ground up. So maybe it didn't work out right the first time, or things were a little shaky, or COVID happened and it threw everyone's equilibrium off. But now you have the resources and the information that we're providing with from the ground up, as well as all the experts that we've brought on the show to help you. Dr. Martin said we need a part 2. What's the next date?
Well, and say, Teresa, this is about part 6. So that just means you need to jump on in because we've been on a roll.
We've been on 3-4 times. She's a crowd favorite here on From the Ground Up. So maybe we have to bring both of you. We'll get both of the attorneys on together. That will be a powerhouse show.
Oh yeah. I love. Yes. Oh yeah. Wait, she's more than an attorney. She's a doctor too. What are you talking about? I'm just an attorney. Okay, please.
No, you look. Don't play yourself short. You got multiple roles, as
Exactly.
you know. You juggling a couple of things.
He's working in our state assembly. He's a pilot. He's an entrepreneur. He's a business attorney. I mean, come on. It's like what's the sketch comedy that I love to talk about with plenty jobs? I know you're Haitian, but it sounds like you're Jamaican with all the jobs that you but it's about multiple streams of income and really allowing this. Hey, Mama Vera. Love it, love it. So, all of our folks are tuning in, and if you did miss those episodes where Dr. Teresa Martin Esquire was on talking about, the cash flow, the 5 C's, and really learning how to create that cash flow within your business, and we talked about PPP. It's so much. So we're proud of season 2 here at From the Ground Up. We are first and third Tuesdays of every month. We're going to do some different things in the second quarter. This is the last show of the first quarter, and we invite you to join us on our website to sign up for information. We're going to be switching the model. You grow and you move and you expand, and he's protecting your trademarks. Exactly. That's my trademark attorney right here. I keep him quite busy. But in any event, we're excited about where we're going, not only with this season of the show, but with the information and resources that we're providing to our MWBEs and small businesses. When you learn something, you share it. Right? It's not about keeping it all to yourself. All of us have had our stumbling blocks. All of us have had our learning curves. The good news is, just like Danielle shared the story of Frito-Lay, you have to start somewhere, and it can be in dismal times. It was in the Great Depression. And look at the company now. So who's the next Frito-Lay combination that's going to happen as a result of COVID and racial unrest and all the financial disparities that we're seeing? Those who stay the course, who work on their mindset, and who do the work will be the ones whose children's children will tell the story of how they started from the ground up. Real-time issues with real-time solutions. So thank you so much, Attorney Clive Vanell Esquire. I'm going to turn it over to my dear, beautiful co-host. And don't you love her beautiful locks for today?
But look, talking about pivoting, this is a pivot for me. So, in real time. But as always, I always say, Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant, she says so much. She packs it in, she gives the wisdom. So thank you. So what do I need to say? The only thing I'm going to add to that is many are called, but few are chosen. And I thought about that. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because guess what, folks? We are telling you, we're giving you information, but you have the choice of what you do with it. And either you are going to step into your greatness or not. The choice is yours. So we're going to continue to be here every other Tuesday, giving you jewels, wisdom. But if you don't apply it, then it's just knowledge. So are you going to be here? Are you going to try it? Are you going to choose to step into your greatness or a greater level of your greatness in 2021? I hope the answer is yes. So again, choose rightly. Until we see you again, make it happen and have a phenomenal 2 weeks. See you soon.
Bye.